Welcome to Everything Life and Real Estate. Let's get started with our hosts, Linda McKissack and Dana Gentry.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Everything Life and Real Estate. I'm Linda McKissack.
And I'm Dana Gentry.
We talked a lot about AI. Almost every meeting now is about AI. Jeff Woods was there, and
I'm
I'm
going to start his book on when I'm in Florida the day after Christmas. I already have it. In fact, I gave it to several people for Christmas, but I just haven't started it yet. So I'm going to start it on my trip.
Well, we've got him on our list. He'll jump on our podcast anytime we want him, so he's got to get him in the queue.
I want to read the book first, so that'd be good.
He says we use it as a strategic partner, not as an extra assistant.
Yeah, I like that.
So in doing that, that means you give it the context, you assign it the role, you ask it to interview you with 3 to 5 questions, and then you give it a task.
So true.
So that was a cool way to do it. But I tell you what, Dan said, put a sign outside your off your desk. It says, "How can AI help me do this?"
Oh.
And everything for every that way, every day you look up and find one thing or something that you want to try to see how AI can help you do
You know
this.
who's gotten so good at that is Teresa in Columbus, my team leader there. And after the Christmas luncheon, she led and emceed and did the whole Christmas luncheon. And hopefully if any of our agents are listening to this, you'll be proud of her and not the other way. But afterwards I said, Teresa, that was the best MC job you've ever done. Cause she used to hate to do that stuff, 2 years ago. And I said, everything was perfect. The flow, your prayer, everything you said. And she said, oh, thank you so much. She said, ChatGPT did the whole thing. And I was like, what? And she said, I told him exactly what we were doing, what I wanted to accomplish. And she said, it spit out the whole 3 pages. And she said, and then I asked it to personalize it and then something else. And she said, and it was perfect. She said, other than that, she said, my husband helped me write the blessing. And other than that, ChatGPT did the entire thing. And I was like, okay, wow. And she said, because, Adam coaches her. And she said, because Adam has given me a challenge of having ChatGPT do something every single day. And she was like, so that was my thing for the day. And I was like, well, that was a good one. It was really great. But, I was going back to thinking for brand builders when I have been recently, I just finished that expert bio. And they have you put it in ChatGPT at the end. And it really did. I mean, the bio, I followed the formula they gave. The bio was good. And then I put it in there and ChatGPT, them, whoever they are, it changed 3 or 4 keywords that completely made it sound like a magazine wrote it. It was unreal.
Oh, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to give ChatGPT my story.
Yes, you should.
And see what it does before I give it to Kendra.
Great idea. Yeah, great idea. It was wild. It changed one word. I'm trying to remember what it was. And I thought, that is so, just so good. Oh, I had Dana Gentry is an expert on growth. And that was the first sentence of the thing. And it came back and said, Dana Gentry is a highly sought after expert on growth. And I was like, oh, okay, I like that.
Yeah,
but it's awesome. Just a couple little words that just completely changed the way that it sounded. And my brand builders coach was like, it works. You should do it. You don't want it to write it for you. Like you said, it's not your executive assistant, but it did give a couple tweaks that are man, that's great.
Yeah, that's awesome. So cool. All right. So tell me which one are you going to talk about? What have you been doing? I know you've been learning a lot,
but I'm going to talk about really fast. I just had a high capacity leadership with John Maxwell mentor Zoom. Only this time it was with Mark Cole, and it was on their process of how they do their year-end review. And I hadn't heard this one before, and it was so good. I think that they've redone it this year. So it's a lot, but I'll go through just a couple of the quick things. So first of all, John and Mark separately. So they do it separately because they believe when you do your year-end review, you should do it by yourself first, not with your spouse, not with your partner. They take 2.5 days completely by themselves. And they gave the formula for that. but he said that every personal growth plan depends on what depends on eliminating the distractions. And so he said every year they're looking to eliminate more distractions that they have so that they can focus on the main thing the main thing. And then he said that they're asking themselves they're looking at next year with 3 different lenses. The first one is the content that I'm going to consume, because Mark said, and this is so true, there's so much content that we can consume between books and podcasts and speakers and events and Netflix or TV. I mean, it's everything. And so he said the first lens is, what content am I going to consume? The second one is the people that are going to speak into me, like the people that I allow to speak into me. Because he said that we also have so many people now that they think they're experts, or, you listen to all this stuff and then they speak. And so he said, John and I, every year we pick a couple of key people that he said some are ones we do every year. So like for you, that would be Dan Sullivan or Gary, you're always going to let them speak into you. But he said, we only allow a couple of new ones each year to say, okay, these are some people that, we're going to let speak into us. And then the third one is experiences for next year that I can grow from and also will make me better. And he said better, like in your calling, better in your unique ability, we would say, just like would make you better.
Okay.
So he looks at it through those 3 lenses. And then the second piece of that was they work off of 5 different pillars, and they have 3 support beams in each pillar. And this was something I've never heard before from John. And I think Mark and he have just put this out. But he said basically the 5 pillars are personal, family, financial, your calling, and then your community. And he said, and under each of the pillars, they each have 3 support beams. And so the very first day, they go back and look through all of these and basically evaluate how they reflect on how the year was for each of these. So in personal, it's self, health, and spiritual. So they look back and say, okay, for my personal pillar, the 3 support beams in that are self. So like, how did I grow, personally? How's my health? And then how's my spirituality? For family, which I actually kind of liked this one, the 3 pillars, the first one for family is your spouse. And then the other two pillars are your immediate family and then your extended family. Because Mark said, John and I both have goals with just our spouses and then our immediate family. And then he said, we want to see our extended family too, or we want to help make an impact with our extended family or whatever. For financial, the 3, they were easy, but the 3 were spend, save, and give. So he said, when I look about my spending, how do I feel? My saving, how did I feel? And my giving, how did I feel? The calling was interesting because he said his calling is to make a difference in the business and secular world. And so his 3 pillars were his business plan, his business performance, and then his team, because he leads a team. So really, I think that one I was like, man, that's pretty good, because our callings most of ours are somewhere in the secular space. We're not in like the church planning world like some of the other people. So looking and evaluating the business plan, how our business is all performed, and then how are our teams in each business. And then in community, he said this would be one that could flex for people. It could be like a specific charity, or it could be your church, but his were my friends, my neighborhood, and the city that I live in, because they both want to make big impacts in the cities that they live in or where they have houses in, I guess. So he said those were like the pillars, but then basically what he does, and I'll just break this down real quick, but he said he needs 10 hours total to like dig intentionally deep, and clear himself of the clutter, remind himself that he believes in himself. And so Mark, and I think John does this too, but Mark said he actually fasts while he's doing this. And he said that he fasts from like food and his phone and like any sort of social, like he just said he does like a 10-hour uninterrupted, like drinks a ton of water and I guess whatever else and fast. But he said for hour number 1, it's all about quieting yourself. And he said literally he sits, which this would be probably really hard for me, probably hard for you too. He said he just sits still for 1 hour and he quiets himself.
Oh,
I know. He said he quiets himself. He quiets his mind. He said he prays. He invites God to, just use the next 9 hours. And he said he just is still. He said he typically has to sit outside to do it because he likes to take in nature, which that would work. I was thinking if I went and took my chair and sat on the beach, even if it was cold, just to be quiet. I don't think I could just sit here in this room and be quiet for an hour, but. And then hour number 2 is identifying yourself. And he said what that means is re-getting to know yourself. He said really start to write down your purpose, your superpowers, your passions. What are you doing when you're most fulfilled? And he said just to take a whole hour and really focus on those things and just write down as much as you can. And then the next 3 hours, so hours 3, 4, and 5, he reflects on 2024 for 3 straight hours. And he basically he starts to journal or type in the computer. I think he does computer. What worked, what failed. He said a big one is what should be repeated. So what did we do good that definitely we should repeat next year? What should we discontinue or what's not working? And then he said the third question is to think about what should I attempt again? Because he said you may have had a great idea about something and it just wasn't the right timing. And so it's not necessarily that it needs to be discontinued or, scratched. It just might need to be that you attempt it again. He said a lot of times we forget that. So the hours 3, 4, and 5, he reflects. Hours 6, 7, 8, he spends time on 2025. So on the next year. So the next 3 hours are all planning for 2025. He does what's one big thing I want to accomplish next year. Where do I need to see more momentum is a big question that they're asking for next year, he said, because he said that he can see areas of their business. He says that right now on John, which I can see this, he says that John has a supernatural God momentum on his life right now. And he's doing so much and making they're reaching 2 million people a day, with their podcast and their platforms and everything. He's we're trying to figure out where we want to see more momentum. And then where do we want to build on the momentum that we already have? But momentum was a big word. And then he said, answer the one question, how will I know that I succeeded in 2025? And he said, you don't have to say one word, but how will you know, at the end of the year, if you're looking back, how will you know that you succeeded next year? And he said, be as specific as possible as you possibly can. And then he basically takes the last 2 hours, hours 9 and 10, and he said he uses those to get into action and put a plan in place. So for hours 9 and 10, he said this is where the magic happens. So this is where you're calendaring. You're really starting to put stuff in your calendar for next year. He said you're texting people, asking them if they will mentor you, do a call with you. He is starting the conversation of certain relationships that he may need to grow next year in order to hit the 2025 plans. He said, what will you do daily, weekly, monthly to actually work the plan? Spend the last 2 hours texting people, calling people, putting it in your calendar and making the magic happen. And then the last 2 things that I just thought were so good. And I thought this would be good for really both of us, but for so many people. He said that the last couple years they had to put a personal advisory council in place. So he said John has one and Mark has one. And he said that it's 2 or 3 people. He said both of them is their spouse. And then the other 2 are a mentor, their assistant, whoever. But basically the personal advisory council is who they run big changes or big calendar things by. And so those people look at your calendar, they know your goals, they look at your plans, and they basically advise you and target your blind spots that you might be oh, I'm so excited to go do this. But they might be hold on a minute. Does that really align with this? Do you really want to be gone another, get on a plane again next week? He said that that's been one of the most impactful things that he's done over the last 2 years is put the personal advisory council together. And then he said, that all actionable items need to go in the calendar, even text. He says he has a text in his calendar to text his mom every single day. Well, now she's I think she's kind of sick and not doing as well. But he was if it's an actionable item, I don't care how much it sounds like you should just be able to remember to do that. He was like, throw that out the window and put it in your calendar, because he was like, as much as high capacity as the people are on the call, like, you know, you might forget to call your, you know, whoever for a couple of days in a row. And he's like, every actionable item that you care about should be in your calendar somewhere. And I was like,
Dude, that's where that scheduling your text has helped me so much, because half the time when I think of texting someone or calling someone or doing whatever, it's at the hours that nobody should be working.
I know. I'm this.
So I now schedule it, and it goes like 1 minute after the hour starts.
I love that. I know.
8:01 p.m. This is gonna go.
I knew I had calls all day today, but I needed to talk to Dylan about something specific. So I'm like, at 7:15, are you up? I'm driving Amelia to school, and this is like my only time. He's like, call me. I'm like, but it's always the hours that, you know, or for me, it's like 3 o'clock in the morning. And then I'm like, oh.
Yeah, now if I could just, I guess you could probably, I wonder if you could do voice.
Yeah.
I wonder if you could do a voice text that way.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I'll have to look that up and see. But yeah, I just thought it was really great. So, you know, Adam and I always do our planning when we're in Florida the week after Christmas. And I'm going to really work on this. Yeah, I'm gonna try as much as I can to like really go deep. I don't know about the fasting from food, but I will fast from like social media and texting and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Are you going to do? I listen to Chris Hodges on Sunday. I love that guy's sermons.
Oh my gosh, so I've learned more from him about the Bible than any other preacher ever. He's just so good.
And what I love is how, I mean, you know, they have every correctional center, prison or whatever in Alabama, and they're about to go to Georgia. I mean, they do such good work. I really just am super impressed. But my question, the reason I ask you that is because, are you going to do their 21 days of prayer and fasting again? Yeah, this will be my
sixth year. This is my 6th year in a row of doing it.
What are you going to fast from?
I always fast from sugar. I'm not going to I don't do sugar. And then I think I'm going to do spending again. I did spending last year, and it was good for me to just start the year off. Like, I won't buy anything unless it's a necessity. To which even Amelia just asked me that, to which Amelia's like, what's considered a necessity? And I'm like,
that's so funny. Press's little friend, Chance. Have you ever met Chance?
So
he is Press's friend. He's autistic. He's been Press's friend since 2nd grade. I mean, he's the sweetest thing ever. But he called us one time, and he was really upset because his counselor, he was going to a school where they kind of help you try to live in the real world. And he was really upset because his counselor thought that video games was a want, and he really thinks it's a need. So I think I could argue between wants and needs.
That sounds like Amelia. She thinks Lulu is a need, and I'm like, Lululemon is a want.
Yeah. So true. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. So great session. So we've both been learning a lot. I knew you'd been busy learning, and I had too.
You know, and I have, this is one of my goals that I have not accomplished, and it's not going to happen next year, but I still have the goal of, I want to do 1 year. I'm going to go to Birmingham, and I'm going to get an Airbnb for 21 days and work. And I want to go in person and do it. I want to, because I do it online every year, but and we have it in person here at our church here, but I want to do I want to do Church of the Highlands in person 1 year.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be great. Awesome. Okay. So if you have not hit the subscribe button, please go ahead and do that now. And the greatest compliment you could pay Dana and I would be to pass this podcast along to anyone that you think that would benefit from these conversations. If you have a question, a challenge, or an opportunity you want us to discuss with you on the podcast, or you know a guest that you think would be great on our podcast, be sure and reach out to us at Everything Life and Real Estate. And Dana, I guess I'll see you after the holidays.
Sounds good. See you then. Merry Christmas.
Be sure to subscribe for more business strategies and tactics to inspire you to live an abundant real estate life. Don't forget to rate and review so we can bring you the best content. Find this and other valuable information at everythinglifeandrealestate.com.